Paris-Detroit Ford Motor Company is set to replace chief executive Mark Fields with James Hackett, the head of its mobility arm, company sources said, responding to growing investor unease over the USCARMAKER&APO's stock performance and prospects. The departure of Fields, 56, is likely to be announced on Monday, the sources said, adding Hackett, 62-year-old head of the division responsible for autonomous driving, would take the helm in a broader shake-up aimed at speeding up decision-making and improving execution. A Ford spokesman declined to discuss any management changes, but the company called a news conference for 13:45 GMT, 0945 Eastern Time. "We are staying focused on our plan for creating value and profitable growth," the spokesman said. "We do not comment on speculation or rumors." Ford shares are down 37% since Fields took over 3 years ago, at the peak of the U.S. auto industry's recovery. Now, sales in the United States are slipping, and Ford is trailing the profitability of larger rival General Motors, whose shares fell 13% over the same period. Ford and APO's board and chairman Bill Ford Jr. have been unhappy with the COMPA and APO's performance and sought reassurance that investments in self-driving cars, electric vehicles and ride services would pay off. The upheaval at Ford underlines pressure on all three Detroit automakers to prove they can avoid losses as the U.S. auto market begins to slow from last year and APO's record sales. Fiat Chrysler is fighting diesel emissions cheating allegations from U.S. and California regulators following CEO Sergio Marchionne and APO's failed bid to find a merger partner. GM boss Mary Barra is fending off attacks from investor David Einhorn and APO's hedge fund Greenlight Capital, which wants to install 3 new directors and split GM and APO's stock. In March, GM sold its loss-making Opel division to France and APO's PSA Group, effectively exiting Europe in a move Barra promised would free cash for share buybacks. The shake-up at Ford may bring new scrutiny of its own plans in the region. Jim Farley, Ford of Europe chief since January 2015, is set to move to oversee Ford and APO's regions, global marketing and sales, as well as its Lincoln Motor Company, the sources said. Joe Hinrichs, head of the Americas since December 2012, will manage global product development, manufacturing and labor affairs, purchasing, and environmental and safety engineering, while Marcy Clevern, vice president of information technology and chief technical officer since January, will oversee HACKET and APO's Ford Smart Mobility. Ford posted a record $1.2 billion European profit last year, but warned the impact of Brexit and APO's vote to leave the European Union would put a dent in 2017 earnings. Fields also faced clamor for share repurchases, which boost the value of stock, at the annual shareholder meeting earlier this month. Confidence is created by hard currency, not proclamations that are often qualified, one investor told the meeting in a question read out by the chairman. Ford said last week it would cut 1,400 staff positions in North America and Asia, a small fraction of the 20,000 job cuts some news outlets had reported were imminent. Fields had outlined a variety of initiatives to confront challenges from technology companies such as Alphabet Incorporated that want to control a future of autonomous, data-intensive vehicles. You have to have one foot in today, but also one foot in the future, Fields told reporters last month. I think investors understand our strategy. Among his bets on technology is a plan to invest $1 billion over the next 5 years in tech startup Argo AI. Ford has churned out strong profits on his watch, reporting a record $10.4 billion in pre-tax earnings in 2016. However, investors were concerned by a weak first quarter and lower profit forecast for 2017, as well as higher costs for investments in emerging opportunities. Silicon Valley electric car maker Tesla Incorporated was valued at $51 billion on Friday, more than Ford and APO's $43 billion. The contrast is a dramatic sign of how little confidence investors have that old-line automakers can transition to a future where software substitutes for pistons and transportation is sold by the mile or the minute. At the same time, GM is turning up the pressure on Ford in the North American truck and sport utility business, the source of 90% of Ford and APO's profits. GM is gearing up an and quad and SLAUGHT and quad of trucks for the North American market, the AUTOMAKER and APO's president Dan Ammann told Reuters last week, including a new generation of the Chevrolet Silverado large pickup truck that competes with Ford and APO's primary profit machine, the F-Series line of trucks.